Hi there, students. Stigma. Okay, a stigma is a distinguishing mark of social disgrace. Wow. Let's see, let me look at the origin of this word to start with, and we can move forward from there. This word stigma comes from ancient Greek, and the Greeks used to mark or tattoo, to cut or burn, to brand if you like, the skin, very often the face, of criminals, of slaves, and of traitors. The word comes from stizane, which means this mark or tattoo that you're a criminal or a slave or a traitor. And like that, everybody could see that you were a criminal or a slave. You were not of the higher echelons of society. You were someone to be avoided. So nowadays we use the word stigma to mean that your situation is a distinguishing mark of social disgrace. So, for example, John carries the stigma of having been to prison. Okay, a stigma is a label that society gives to people that associates them with a set of negative characteristics that make up a stereotype. So if you say John's been to prison, then people generally associate all of this with the stereotype of the person who goes to prison. So he's violent, you can't trust him, he's dangerous. For example, as well, mental illness carries a stigma. Maybe every day a little bit less. If you admit that you are mentally ill, then maybe this will be a stigma in society. People will think you're crazy, you're not somebody who could be given responsibility. To admit that you've got AIDS publicly, this carries a stigma. Okay, people immediately think of the stereotype. He's probably a homosexual drug user. This person, maybe I need to steer clear of him because if I touch him, I could catch the disease. Okay, so a stigma is like a mark that society puts on somebody for belonging to a certain group or being of having a certain circumstance. Stigma is a form of discrimination. Okay, you are socially discredited. Maybe being unemployed carries a stigma with it. The stigma of being unemployed. If you say I'm unemployed, then people probably think you're lazy, you don't want to work, you sponge off society. And this is the idea of a stigma. Okay, it's like a stain or a brand or a mark, although you can't normally physically see it. Okay, so people very often will not admit to things or admit to a certain circumstance because of the stigma associated with that condition, situation. Okay, because they fear that they will be socially discriminated by people, and they won't be accepted in society. This is related to the way we categorize, we pigeonhole people. We put them in a certain group. And if you have a stigma, then you are an outsider. You're not one of the team. You're not one of the group. You are pushed out, discriminated against. I think over recent years, many stigma are being broken down, but society still stigmatizes, to stigmatize, many people for belonging to a social group, for being ill, for being convicted of a crime, for many different things. Notice as well, this word stigma has a completely different meaning. In botany, normally a flower has a little bit in the centre where the pollen goes, where the pollen is germinated, and that is the stigma of a flower. It's probably the male sexual organ of a flower, okay? So the stigma, just something completely different. Okay, so a stigma, a mark of social disgrace, a classification in a group that means you are an outsider and you're not one of us. I wish people didn't stigmatize people for all sorts of things, but maybe it's the way people think. We need to be more open-minded and not put people into categories because they have the stigma of something associated with them. We must look at the person, not the situation or the condition. Okay? So, stigma. Formality. Let's see. I think you could use this word in an informal conversation. It's probably a more formal and literary word. I think this word stigma is very good for a formal essay or something like that. Yeah? A mark of social disgrace. But I think you can use stigma informally as well, although it's to the formal side of things. Okay? So, a stigma, like a mark. Can you see it? Can you not see it? On somebody because of some situation, condition, belief, religion, place of birth, thing that happened to them. There are loads of stigma. So there you go. I hope that's clear. If you enjoyed the video, give it a rating, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now. Stigma.